So I'd love to tell you all that the sniper had an absolute glow up with the new prestige system, but actually it was just me finding my brain cells along the way. And that was the real journey, because this class is absolutely phenomenal and the new prestige system only made it better. So go ahead and get buckled in, because we got a little bit to talk about today. This class actually offers quite a bit of versatility within its perk system, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I'm just going to go over the brief loadouts that I have with it, starting, of course, with my bolt sniper setup here. So I do tend to use the bolt sniper over the traditional las fusel, just because I feel that this synergizes a little bit better with some of the sniper perks. On top of that, I just like the fact that I don't have to deal with a delay when it comes to shooting it. If I put my crosshairs on something and I have a good shot, I can go ahead and take it. I don't have to charge anything for a few seconds and run the risk of something potentially jumping out of the way, or with like chaos and that, teleporting to a new location, and now I've just wasted a shot. For the secondary, I do run the heavy bolt pistol, and then the only melee weapon this class has is the combat knife. The other main class that I use is very similar. The only change is the stalker bolt rifle. The main reason that I use the stalker bolt rifle over the new instigator bolt carbine is just simply because of the fact that one of the perks that we'll be talking about later not only benefits the stalker bolt rifle, but also the bolt sniper itself. Finally, if I'm ever running an operation where I'm going to be doing a lot of close quarters kind of stuff, I do run the bolt carbine. I have been going back and forth between the Gathelmore Crusade Marksman variant and also the Ophelian Liberation. I would say as of right now, for me, they're completely interchangeable. But the other thing that I did add on to this class only is the Inferno pistol, just for a little bit of extra backup with dealing with mobs up close. But let's get into the main event here, and that is going to be the perk system. So, as always, this is my personal setup. This is what works best for me. I will throw out that I do primarily play on like Ruthless, Lethal, and Absolute. So this build should work on those higher difficulties for you. However, it is a little bit more tailored to my playstyle, and if my playstyle doesn't fit with you, that's perfectly fine. But if you're new, you can use this as kind of like a baseline guide of what you can do with this class. So we're actually going to go ahead and start off with the 4 prestige perks here. Kind of like the Bulwark, I felt that there were 4 that were really good, and then the other ones I was kind of like, they might be good in certain situations, but with these 4, I found that I was getting benefits from them regardless of how I was running the class. First perk I chose was Versatile Precision. Very straightforward. Anytime you get a kill with your secondary weapon, you get 15% of your primary weapon's ammo back. There is a 15-second cooldown. However, 15 seconds can go rather quick, so you can actually refill your primary weapon rather quickly just by slapping this perk on. It's phenomenal, because there have been so many times where I've run out of ammo with like my bolt sniper and that. I'm cleaning up a lot of Minoris enemies with the heavy bolt pistol, and then whenever I see like a Majoris or an Extremis or even a Terminus pop out, normally by the time that's happened, I've got a couple rounds in the bolt sniper and I can go right back to work on just dinking them right in the head and making the game extremely easy. Next, I did choose Emperor's Grace. Very similar reason as to why I picked the corresponding perk with the Bulwark, which is whenever you activate Camo Cloak. For this, with the Bulwark, it was whenever you would place your banner, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Now, the nice thing with this is the Camo Cloak, you can use it in a lot of different situations over, let's say, something like the banner. I do feel that the Cloak has a little bit more versatility behind it, but regardless, let's say I'm just in a really, really bad position. Whole bunch of enemies were able to get on my flank and I need to get the hell out of there, but I know, hey, while I'm about to do that, I would typically eat a lot of damage. I can throw this on and I get a 2-second head start. Along with that, I did also pick versatility, which again is just a perk that you're going to see nothing but benefits from. So anytime that you swap from your primary to your secondary, you're going to get a 20% damage boost. Now this effect only lasts until you switch back to your primary or until you reload your secondary weapon. So let's say I'm using the heavy bolt pistol. I got 10 rounds in the mag. I shoot 5. Doesn't matter. I still reloaded. The effect is gone. However, to get it back, all you got to do is switch back to your primary and then switch right back to your secondary, and instantly you have another 20% damage boost. I really like this because it's made some cleanup kills extremely easy, especially if like I run out of ammo with my sniper and maybe I got one headshot on a target and I know it's very, very close to becoming executable. I can just switch over to my sidearm. Makes cleanup kills super easy. Also really nice if you're a good shot at just taking out my Norse enemies. Finally, the last perk that I picked was Conviction. The main idea behind this was Sniper does struggle a little bit with survivability. I kind of look at it as a bit of a glass cannon. And you are going to be losing your armor quite a bit. It's something that happens regardless of what class that you play. But the other reason too is I do still feel that this class does struggle when there's a whole bunch of mob style enemies right on you. So this is just something that's going to help keep you alive for a little bit longer. Now, getting into the regular perk tree here, again, going back through the prestige system, and that it did give me a chance to kind of mess around with every single perk that we have on here. Now, I am going to start off just by telling you in each column which perk I picked, and then if there's any other perks that work really well in that category as well, I'll also let you know. But the first perk that I'm picking in the first column is Medicae Adept. It's a 30% faster recovery for your teammates when you're reviving them. Honestly, just being able to get them back into the fight a lot quicker. Also, you're reducing the amount of time that you're potentially going to take damage. It's nothing but a boost for the team. Unfortunately, if all your teammates are dead, it doesn't really do anything at that point. But in those situations where they're only down and out, you can get them back into the fight. Also, you're going to take less damage as well. Plus, if you pop it with your camo cloak, because we are running Emperor's Grace, you're going to be completely invulnerable, and the 2 seconds is going to cover most, if not all, of the revive. The other perk that I would say is also worthwhile looking into, especially if you want to do a more kind of close quarters build, would be Melee Mastery, which just gives you a generic 20% damage against Majoris level enemies and higher, which is nice because it's not just Majoris, it's all enemies that are that level and above. Also, if you're just starting out, Block Break, not a terrible perk by any means, but normally if enemies are blocking, you are facing a pretty significant damage reduction. I just prefer to wait for them to somehow break their block, whether that's from my teammates engaging them or if I can reposition and get a better shot on them. I would rather do that. But if you don't have access to either of these two because you're just at a lower level, there's nothing wrong with running this one for the time being. Next, I did take Vantage Point. As long as I'm stationary for 2 seconds, you get a range damage increase of 20%. That's not just for your primary, but your secondary as well. Again, if you're using the sniper, a lot of times you're going to be hanging back. You are going to be stationary. And if that's how you're going to play the game, might as well get a little bit of a damage boost for it. I will say it is enough that, if you are missing headshots, you may notice that enemies will still go down a little bit quicker. But one of the other things that I would throw out is, regardless of if I had this perk on or not, especially playing on Ruthless and above, if I got 2 headshots without this perk versus 2 headshots with it, they were still only knocked. They weren't insta-killed or anything like that. So just be aware of that. In second place, though, for this column, I would pick High Capacity just because it does increase your ammo, especially if you don't have any sort of ammo regen perks. Just having more to be able to pull from is always better. Adaptability isn't too terrible, but again, I would say that this is more of a melee focused or close quarters perk. And again, I just think that there are other classes that do that particular role better, so I don't even personally bother with it. Now, moving into the third column here, I would say that this is actually something that is going to be dependent on what weapon you are going to primarily be running. I would just set this perk to whichever one you're running. Again, for me, because I'm personally using the bolt sniper rifle and the stalker bolt rifles more often, I go with iron grip, which just gives me a 20% reduction in range damage, 20% reduction in recoil and weapon spread, but also a 15% damage increase against terminus level enemies with both the stalker bolt rifle and the sniper as well. But again, the other two perks, dexterous hands, if you are going to be using either of the bolt carbines, is a very good perk to run. And then, of course, lethal efficiency for the las fusel will help you keep your ammo topped off as long as you're able to get some multi-kills with it. For the team perks, a lot of them are pretty good. I still choose to go with marksmanship just because I do like that additional headshot damage, because all this damage does stack, and it is something that I have noticed even playing around with some of my friends that this is a nice way to kind of help them out without actively doing anything. A lot of times you're going to be going for headshots anyways. Might as well get more damage out of them if you can. In second place, though, in this column, I would say Squad Renewal is arguably a better perk. I just primarily don't run it because a lot of times the people that I'm playing with are not overly relying on their abilities, or they have their own personal way to kind of get it back faster, and just having that extra headshot damage is better. But essentially, anytime anybody on the team gets a headshot kill, it restores your armor ability by 10%, which 10 headshots in this game can happen very, very fast, so people can constantly be refilling their ability. Now, moving on into the gear perk, honestly, this is one of the best perks in the game by far, and I was completely ignorant to it. I'll be the first to admit it. But it's purification. So this is kind of the ultimate mulligan perk in the game, at least in my opinion. So what's really cool about it, and the reason why I initially didn't like it was because I didn't fully understand how it worked. But so anytime you activate your camo cloak, for starters, you're going to negate all status effects. So if you've been hanging out in the little wires that the Tyranids shoot, or maybe if you're under some sort of chaos influence, just activate your camo, that instantly goes away. Now, the cool thing, though, and why I think this perk is just so phenomenal is, let's say you have a whole bunch of contested health, but you don't have a stim kit or anything like that. As long as it's still white and it hasn't completely gone away, activate your camo, and it's like it never happened. Plus, with Emperor's Grace, as soon as you activate that camo, not only are you regaining all that contested health back, but you're also going to be invulnerable for 2 seconds. Plus, camo will naturally kind of divert the AI's aggression towards your other 2 teammates. So this is almost kind of like a little pocket stim kit that you can carry around. I have noticed, though, that sometimes if you are getting stun locked, you kind of do have to really spam the camo button just to get it to activate. But there have been a lot of times where this perk has allowed me to keep my health completely topped off, and allowed me to, let my other teammates and that who are maybe having a harder time focus on getting the stims. The other perk, though, that I didn't think was too bad in this class was Renewal. Now, this will stack as well with Squad Renewal, and that is anytime you get a headshot kill, your ability is going to charge by an additional 15%. So essentially, you get 4 headshot kills, you can pop camo again, even if it was at 0. However, I still think Purification is the better perk to equip, just because, again, this class is a little bit of a glass cannon, so anything that's going to help keep you alive and benefiting the team, I think is phenomenal, and that's why I recommend Purification. Now, moving into the third slot, again, all of these are incredibly usable. It's just really going to depend on your playstyle. For me, primarily using the sniper rifle with it, targeted shot is my main pick, just because anytime that you would do any sort of range attack that would cause your camo to break, you get an additional 75% damage. Now, it's not only with the sniper rifle, it can be, as long as it's range damage, you get that 75% buff. Again, this will stack with other perks in the game, so it's a phenomenal way, especially against like Terminus or even extremist level enemies, to get a whole bunch of damage on them. Even if you don't get a headshot, you're still going to get quite a bit of damage on there and make it super easy for your team to take them out. Now, if you are playing more of a melee or close quarters build, tactical ambush is essentially the same thing. However, you do get a much bigger damage increase, and this does only work with melee weapons. So the combat knife, which does need all the help it can get in dishing out damage. But that being said, it is a 150% damage increase, which is absolutely huge. There have been a couple times where I've been running this perk just to test it out, along with the knife perk that allows you to charge it, and you can actually get some insane damage by doing that with the combat knife. It's phenomenal against like the biovores or some of the more stationary extremists and terminus level enemies. But if neither of them really interest you, you feel comfortable without running them, Guardian Protocol is also a phenomenal pick as well. Essentially, anytime that you revive someone, both you and the person you revived get a camo cloak for 5 seconds, which, again, it is going to divert the AI's aggression to your one other teammate, so just kind of be aware of that. But if you're picking up somebody who's in a bad position, this is a way for them, or not only for them, but for both of you to kind of get back, get set up in a different area, and then start re-engaging. Finally, within the second to last column here, last column in the gear slot, again, all three of these perks, not bad. For me, my favorite was Lingering Concealment, which will just allow you to remain hidden an additional 2 seconds after you do anything that would break the camo cloak. So sometimes that's, for me, I really like it because a lot of Majoris level enemies, most of the time they're getting anywhere, or it takes 2 to 3 headshots to get them into the executable range. A lot of times you can pop one shot, you get that extra damage, plus you still have a chance to get a second follow-up shot before all the enemies start to figure out where you're at. And a lot of times it's just enough to allow you to take out the Majoris and then easily clean up all the lower level enemies. Again, the other two perks in this column are not bad. Persistence is another way to help keep you alive, so anytime your camo cloak deactivates, you take 20% less health damage. This does only last, though, for 10 seconds, so it's not a permanent kind of buff, or it doesn't only last while the ability is recharging. It's strictly only for 10 seconds. But if you are struggling to stay alive with the sniper, this is something worthwhile to throw on. Also, ambush. So anytime that your camo cloak deactivates, enemies around you, they'll essentially get startled, they'll lose control, get knocked back. There is a 25-second cooldown on here, but this can be enough for you to have a few moments to engage the enemy before they can really start doing anything back to you. Now, going over into the signature perk, my personal favorite, Emergency Override. This is also like another really good mulligan perk. So anytime that you would take health damage that would knock you out, you're instead going to become invulnerable for 5 seconds and your camo cloak is going to activate. Again, this is one of the best survival perks in the game, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal to run on the sniper because shit happens. There are just times where you end up getting into bad positioning because of how a wave spawns in, or maybe you just get stun locked and there's really nothing that you can do at that point. This will at least give you a little bit of a mulligan to kind of get back, re-engage from maybe a safer area, and hopefully things go better that time around. The other two perks in this category are not bad either. Evasion is pretty cool. Anytime you get a perfectly timed dodge, you get to go into camo without actually having to activate the ability. You only get it for 5 seconds, but it's still not too bad. It's not going to hurt you whatsoever, but you also don't really get any major increases or any sort of like real big buffs to it other than your camo going off. Personally, a lot of times I just kind of found it to be a little... It was nice to have. It was better than having nothing, but it didn't do anything too special. I feel confident enough engaging in close quarters combat with this class that most of the time it would just kind of allow me to take a quick little pop shot with the sniper and then just go right back to engaging in melee combat. And then pattern of excellence. So if you get 3 headshots in a row, your ability will automatically recharge. Very nice